Back. This is Scott Aukerman. I'm here with Gillian Jacobs from Community, and our next guest has come in. And what do you think about having another guest on? Do you think that's rude to you?
Well, you didn't tell me beforehand that there would be another guest, so I feel a little gypped. But
You thought we were going to get in depth about every...
Yeah, you told me this was like the West Coast inside the Actors Studio, so I had a lot of stories prepared for you about the various independent films I've been in. But it's fine. I mean, I'll just go on another podcast and talk about that.
Okay, just please don't make it like WTF or any of the big ones. Just,
No, I'll make it big. It'll be pretty big.
You going to make a big splash?
I could come back another time. I had no idea that this was going to be a problem.
I'm so sorry to do this to you, right in front of the room to you. I'm so sorry.
I feel terrible. I had no idea.
No. It was kind of a booking snafu. I had booked Gillian for kind of an in-depth getting into every little facet of her career.
Yeah, sure.
But I double booked the show, so...
Look, I had no idea. Very sorry, Gillian.
It's okay. I'll get over
I
it.
think it's Gillian. With
What did I say?
Sure. All right, so let me introduce you. I don't know that much about our next guest. He has written a book about his profession, and his name is Andi Callahan.
Hi. Yeah, that's right. You do know something. I wrote a book. It's terrific. Thank you for having me on to talk about it.
It's my pleasure.
I'm very excited. Well, okay, look, it's a humor book, okay? So you can buy it if you like laughing. And so that's why, because it's all about a comedy. Isn't this a comedy show?
This is a comedy program that works out really well.
Terrific.
A humor book. This would be, if you go into a Borders Books, this would be in the humor section.
If you could find a Borders book.
Sure.
Isn't that right? They're going away, aren't they? They're like the dinosaurs.
You know what? I know she was kind of kidding about that, but that is a great point. Can you find a Borders Books?
Oh, you know what? Hey, how about that's a new, like a game show or something like that? Or like,
Find an open bookstore.
I know that you're kidding right now, but that is a great idea.
Okay. All right. Hey, well, look, I'll take the money. If you want to sell that TV show, terrific.
Do you have like a loan out corporation, or how would I get the money to you? Just a personal check? Would that be?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm making some notes
Are
here.
we really doing? This is amazing. I come down here to promote my wedding thing, and it was like a television show.
It's LA.
That's how it happens here. You know, it's that quick. You're sitting there at Schwab's, and then all of a sudden you're a movie star.
Hollywood.
What song is that?
Huh? Isn't it Hooray for Hollywood?
I don't know. I've never heard it.
Did you sing that in Broadway?
But we did not sing that in Broadway. I did sing Putting on the Ritz.
Oh, well, that's a good one, isn't
it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Who did it in the 80s? Did a terrific version.
Taco.
Sure, he did.
Oh, yeah. It's a very slowed down, long version of Putting on the Ritz.
There should be, I think, a version every 15 years or so of that song.
Hey, we're due.
You know, with
we are due.
With modern styles, you know? So, like, you have Taco's version in 1980.
Today it would be all about grunge.
Sure.
It would be the grunge version.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would it have been 15 years ago?
15 years ago? I guess it would be ska.
Sure.
Something like that.
Yep. Save Ferris maybe would have done it.
Who's that now?
So let's talk about your book. You have a humor book, and
let me tell you what it is. Can I give you basically the rundown? Okay. I am a nurse. Okay. I work at the Bergen Regional Medical Center in Bergen County, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And basically, we all sit around and we laugh all the time. I mean, we just have nonstop laughs at the nurses' station. And a little while ago, one of the other nurses, Sandy, she says, you know what? The things that happen here on this floor of the hospital are hysterical. The stories that happen here are funny. Mm-hmm. We're in hysterics all the time. Somebody should write a humor book. I says, why not? So that's what it is. I wrote a book.
You said, why not?
Yeah, I'm a nurse, and I wrote a book about nursing and just some of the crazy things that happen when you're a nurse, and in particular, the crazy things that happen on the floor that I work on.
Some sort of a memoir, then, of the particular stories that have happened to you, or a compendium of different stories that have been told to you?
It's nothing fancy or French like that or anything. It's just it's a collection of what is that now? What are you, from France? This is terrific, this guy. He's, it's really something. Anyway, no, it's a collection of just true funny stories that have happened on our floor that had us in hysterics. So that's all.
Like things you found up people's butts and stuff like that?
Oh, come on.
Great question.
You know
Where
what?
my mind goes.
You do find things up people's butts. It's true. But where I work in particular is I work in the long-term care floor, okay, with patients who are
Slowly dying.
Well, you know what? That's kind of one way to put it, yeah. They're not going to get out of the hospital. They're never going to get out of that. They're not going to get any better.
The only thing up those people's butts is cancer.
Well, it isn't like that.
What's that noise?
That's a good one.
Well, they have a lot of dementia, to tell you the truth. They're the senior citizens. They're very old. A lot of them were committed against their will. You know, a lot of they have no family, no one to rely on whatsoever. They're all, you know, and that is, you know. But we're in hysterics all the time over there with some of the crazy things that they say, some of the things they come out with. Just hysterical.
Hold on a second. So you're saying to people with dementia, you just write down what they say?
Well, you never know what's going to happen, you know.
Nor do
with
they,
the dementia
right?
patients. Well, you know something that's... You guys.
We're having a little bit of fun at your
making.
expense. I know, we're making the sound, and this is a
Hey, I don't mind. We're here for laughter.
That's true.
Oh, actually, I have a related story.
Wonderful.
To your, maybe this is a similar sort of thing that's in your book, is that my grandmother had Alzheimer's, had dementia.
Okay.
And-
I bet she came up with some stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
she
now,
told
why
me-
did you just take out a pad of paper and a pencil?
Well, you know what? You know, the stories are
Sequel.
stories. Exactly. Well, who knows, you know?
And so she was in this old folks home for a long time while she was slowly dying, hysterically slowly dying.
Okay.
And one time I went to visit her, and they had wheeled a lot of patients out in their beds into the hallway, and they were all in the hallway, and one resident was leading them in a chant of, "Put us to bed, we don't want to live, we want to die," which I have never forgotten.
Wow.
True story.
How old were you when
Wow.
you witnessed this?
I was in high school, I think, when I witnessed that.
Pre-Juilliard.
Pre-Juilliard, yeah.
Did you use some of that in your sense memory?
I did. Yeah, whenever I have to, like, really laugh really hard, I think about
Well,
that.
I'll tell you what, that's a great one, and it's just the sort of thing that would be in our book, because it's like, how do you get a chant like that started? I mean, that's pretty funny to think of who started it and who was the second guy who says, yeah, sure, okay, let's go. And then the whole room is doing it. You're going to be kidding me. I mean, if that happened when I was on, I would be in hysterics.
Anything
it's
that
terrific.
dramatic happen?
Well, I'll tell you some of the stories. You want to hear some of the stories of the, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just stories. Okay, so we got one resident on the floor named Bernard. That's Bernard. So, okay, so one night, hanging out at the nurse's station, right, very late at night. And by the way, that's when the dementia patients really get bad.
Oh, at night, the night
is when-
terrors
Yes,
and-
they get really, that's
Oh,
when they
yeah.
really go crazy. Yes, at night is when they
Yeah.
really go crazy. Anyway, so... it's 2:00 in the morning, and something I hear, they stole my sheets, right? Top of his lungs. I hear they stole. I go, oh boy, you know, Bernard, right? He's got to be. So I get in there. Sure enough, he's sitting there on his bed with no sheets, and I'm thinking, who would steal anybody's sheet? Well, everybody's got their own sheets. It's hysterical. Who would take a sheet? Okay, so you had to see us. We decided everybody on the floor, the nurses, okay, so let's have a sheet hunt. I mean, you had to see us. Let's have a sheet. Whoever finds the sheets.
A sheet hunt? Is
Yeah,
that what you...
a sheet hunt. You know, whoever finds the sheets gets $1. You know, so we're like walking around like Sherlock Holmes. You know what I mean? You know, like looking for these sheets. Okay, terrific. Okay, so then the sheets turn up. You're not gonna believe this. Balled up in the toilet of one of the other patients. Okay, and there's a number 2 in there.
Oh, no.
There's a number 2 in those sheets. So we said, to the thing, well, did you steal Bernard's sheets? You know, and this guy doesn't have any idea. He's sound asleep. He doesn't have any idea. We'll go back to Bernard and say, how did your sheets end up in there? He doesn't know. You know, I mean, you can't get a straight answer out of it. They're so crazy.
Were there security cameras that you could check? Or...
No, we don't have that. No, there's no need for that. Yeah, so we never did find out what happened. So, I mean, I think that's hysterical.
Is that a chapter in your book? Or?
Yeah, that's one of the stories. Bernard and the sheets, I call it. You know,
The shit in the sheets.
Oh well, you know what? It's a family trying to, you know, it's
Yeah.
a family book.
sorry.
I call it a number 2.
Something
Yeah.
you could read to your children.
Sure, you could read it to them at night at a bedtime
On Christmas
story
Eve.
or something. You know what? That's not
As
a
they
bad
gather
idea.
around the fire.
Well, different families make their own traditions, and if you wanted to make a tradition to read this book at Christmas Eve, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you want to laugh on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it's
Yes.
a joyous time, and our Savior is born. So let's have some laughs.
You a Christian?
Oh, certainly, absolutely.
How does that affect your work? Does that make you more of a caring, empathetic person?
I think so, yes, because I believe that everybody is Jesus and he's all over the place.
Everybody's Jesus?
Everybody is Jesus. Well, Jesus said, I'm everybody, so if you see somebody and you think it might be me, it is. He said that's in the Bible.
Yeah, and then there was that song, that What If God Was One of Us song, which probably is a good...
Isn't that a terrific song?
Wonderful song.
That would be a good game show, too. You know what? As long as we're creating game shows,
sure.
Can you find God? Yeah, because everybody is. So I think that's terrific.
Everybody wins, right?
Who would? Yeah, well, that's true. We're all winning.
We're all going to win, at the end of our lives.
That's right. We'll be up there in heaven and stuff, and it'll just be terrific.
It really will. Mm-hmm. So do you have any other story? I mean, that story, if Gillian, I have to confess that story was a little kind of a bummer to me.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer.
What do you mean by that? I don't. Oh, well, maybe I didn't tell it right, because it's hysterical. Because you never know what he's going to say and what he's going to come out with.
But that's probably because he has dementia, though, right?
Do you have a lot of Bernard stories in your book?
Sure, there's other Bernard, but I should tell you about Rosa. If you don't want to hear Bernard stories, I'll tell you about Rosa, because
Rosa might be more fun.
This is a good one. Okay, all right. Well, this is a good one. So just get ready to laugh, because Rosa, she's usually very quiet, but very, very crazy. So one night she's crying, top of a she's just crying and crying, and we go in there. We have no idea why she's crying. Okay, and we try to, at certain points, it's like she can't explain herself. All she's doing is crying. So let's try to cheer her up. I mean, you had to say, you ever see that show? Make Me Laugh or whatever. So we're all trying to make her laugh and get her to stop crying. One of the orderlies pulls a quarter out of her ear. It's just hysterical. I'm doing my Groucho Marx, it's the craziest thing I've ever, with a fake cigar, right? And we're trying to make her laugh. Nothing works. Okay, so finally we say, okay, you know what? There's a vacant room at the end of the hallway. Let's put her down there. There's a stairwell on one side, supply closet on the other side. Nobody will hear her, because she's waking everybody up on the floor. So we do. We wheel her down there, and she's crying the whole way. You had to see it. Just the whole way down the hallway. Hysterical. So we put her in this vacant room, and it works. We don't hear from her the rest of the night, okay? In the morning, I go in there to check on her. Do you know what? Hand to God, she's dead. Okay, she's dead.
Oh.
But wait, this is the best. Okay, in her hand is the nurse's call button. She's clutching it in her hand. And that's when I remember, the reason that room was vacant is that the nurse's call button doesn't work in this room. So she had been trying to call us on it. We couldn't hear her because the button was broken. And she had been dying. Is why she was crying, I guess. So, just, you had to see us, what I'm saying. It's broken. That's why the room was vacant. We were in hysterics.
When someone's in distress, do you ever, check their vital signs or run any medical tests on them, or do you just try and make them laugh?
Well, we were trying, we were trying to cheer her up because the problem that she was presenting was that she was upset. So the cure seemed to be to try to get her to laugh. But I see what you're saying about vital signs. That's an interesting point.
Where do you get a fake cigar at that hour?
No, I was pretending.
Oh, you're
yes,
cigar.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
no.
I'm sorry. That was sticking in my craw.
Oh, do I need to tell the rest of the story from that point forward?
Yeah, I wasn't really listening. I was kind of hung up on that.
Okay, so nobody can make her laugh. She's just crying and crying and crying. And then we said, you know what? I got an idea. Let's put her in a vacant room at the end of the hallway.
Oh, I get. Okay, because the cigar was mimed. Okay.
Yes,
I get it now.
Sorry.
Okay,
look, I tell the stories a lot better in the book. I had an editor who's like, everything.
Who would ask questions like that.
Oh, it's not self-published?
No, are you kidding me? What does that mean? No, I got a real publisher.
Who's the publisher?
It's a Penguin Classic.
Penguin Classics,
it's a Penguin Classic.
That's very respectable.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we're talking Pulitzer, and fingers crossed.
Wait, you're talking Pulitzer?
We're hoping, sure, aim big, right? National Book Award.
Do people think it's a satire or something? Why? In what?
What do you mean by that?
Well,
it's a humor book about that's really happened, look, have I worked a little bit and thought about my Nobel speech? Who wouldn't?
Can I pitch something to you?
Yeah, okay.
I think that you should describe this as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from Nurse Ratchet's point of view, because that's what it sounds like to me.
Do you pitch a lot of things, Gillian?
I pitch many things, balls, ideas, more balls.
how did you get into this type of work? It doesn't seem like something that would necessarily appeal to a person of your disposition.
Oh, what do you mean? No, I love helping people, and I love to laugh, and I just love to. I just enjoy frailty, and so these are the things that when I was on a job search, how
does one enjoy frailty? What do you mean by that?
Just what's up? You know how it is, like if you have a sick dog or something like that. And for a while, I was working with the stray dogs, and they were hilarious. If you've ever seen one of these dogs, he's lost a lot of weight, and he's sick or something like that. And he can barely lift up his head. You just want to say, lift up your head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
you just basically seek out situations in which you can feel powerful. Like you can feel.
Well, don't we all do that? I mean, isn't that what we're all doing?
What was your childhood like? Did you did you ever find animals when you were a kid and assert yourself?
Did you burn ants?
Well, sure, of course, yeah. Well, I lived very near a large woods where there were lots of animals, and there were all sorts of ways, you can surprise. People think squirrels are so fast. They're not that fast if you've got a good arm and if you've got a slingshot or something like that.
If you can stun them, in other words.
Well, right, precisely. If you can surprise them with a rock or something like that, they're not that fast, and you can get them, and then you can have them for a little while, and you can do whatever you want with them. Once they're yours in a box or something like that, they can't get out of. You can do whatever you want.
What do you mean by that?
Well, experiments and things like that. It's no coincidence I'm in the health field. I've certainly done some experiments on animals. And things like that.
Dissections or...
Sure, things like that. And sort of, how cold can you stand it? How hot can you stand it? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
And what were your findings on those two?
Well, if you put a squirrel, like, let's say, in the freezer, he'll be, after 10 minutes, he'll want to get out of there, but he'll be fine. Overnight, it's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Overnight, it's a very different story because the squirrel is dead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you're just like, well, and the funny thing is, it's like they're hard as a rock because everything in there froze. And so it's like, bang, bang on a table or something. So that's hysterical. And then also with fire, they don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you do experiments.
You had to do an experiment to find out that animals don't like to be set on fire?
Well, there's all, yeah. I mean,
that's not an obvious assumption, I guess.
You never know, I guess, an animal is different than a human, Yeah. I mean, that's everything's different.
Well, that's precise. Thank you, Scott. That's exactly right. And you know what? I mean, you and I might say, well, it's common sense that the earth is round. I guess what? They had to do some experiments. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. They had to get on a bicycle or whatever they had in those days, or a horse.
Yeah.
And they had to go around and see if it was a circle.
Did you ever try to get into medical school, or you always wanted to be a nurse? So?
Something is funny. I did try to get into medical school, and for a while I said I was a doctor, but it turns out it's very expensive, and they're very, very snooty, and they've got lots of, they got a lot of attitude.
Did someone check your credentials actually?
Well, that was the thing. I said to him, I says, look, this should be a breeze for me to get through medical school. I've been a practicing doctor for 5 years now. I said, oh, really? And then next thing you know, it's all...
They alert the people that you had told that story to.
And yes, and that's a long story. And then it's,
criminal charges, I would imagine.
Well, you strike a deal. You just say, okay, I won't practice medicine anymore. Gee whiz. I don't want to go to jail. God, can you believe it? I mean, that's interesting.
Did you know that? How dare they?
You could go to jail. I mean, this is a true thing that a lot of people probably don't realize, unless I was lied to. You can go to jail for pretending to be a doctor for 5 years and helping people, or trying to help people. You could go to jail for that.
That's criminal. It's criminal that they would try and tell you were a criminal.
Thank you very much.
Did you perform any experiments when you were a practicing doctor? Or?
Oh, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. I hung a shingle, and I got a lot of patients in there. And something? It was a lot of trial and error because, as I say, I had not gone to medical school. I didn't have the books or the learning or anything like that. So it was just kind of
trial and error.
Let's see what works. What are you telling me? That you have a fever? Let's put part of you in the freezer. I can't get all of you in there.
The freezer is very useful when it comes to medicine.
Yeah.
Is most of what you practice just freezer-based?
Well, I mean, you work with what you have, and so I had a pretty good-sized freezer. I couldn't get a fully grown adult in there, but I could get a child in there. So if we had a sick child with a high fever, they'd go in the freezer,
Break the fever. You got to break the fever.
Well, exactly, because what's the problem? You're too hot? Here's a cold place, and I had an oven. You know,
what did your patients think about this kind of like just makeshift practice that you...
I'll tell you what's interesting. A lot of people, they want to get better and they want to believe you know what you're doing. So that's a real advantage in the medical field.
Did you handle mainly people who didn't have insurance and people from other countries who didn't want to be alerted to the INS? Or
yeah, and transients and stuff like that, and people who didn't necessarily know that they were sick, but I could tell by driving by them at the bus station, and I would say, come on. You know what I mean? And I bring them home and see what I could learn and what they could learn and if they could get better. Yeah, or a meal of some kind.
Where did you practice? Was this in a building of some sort, or was this... It sounds like it was maybe in your house somewhere?
That's right. It was in my house. And, it was a house that had been... I found it because it had been abandoned. And but it was a great house. I mean, we had everything you needed. You know, there were rafters you could hang somebody from if their problem was that they're
too short.
Too short. Well, yeah, or poor blood circulation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
or their neck wasn't sore enough.
Well, you wouldn't want to make somebody's neck. See, this is why you're not a doctor. You don't want to make somebody's neck more sore, Scott. You would try to make it less sore. If somebody said they had a sore neck or something like that, you might wrap it up in a sheet or something like that.
Real tight, though. Real tight, right? To stabilize it, right?
Well, right, exactly. Yeah. Because maybe the problem is it's moving too much.
Yeah, and then if their face starts to turn a different color, that probably means that it's working, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing and pull a little tighter, maybe.
Yes, I would think so. Yeah.
I notice you laughing while you're talking about this. The practice of medicine still delights you.
Well, we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughs in those days, just sort of, because a lot of the time, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's a kind of a con job, medicine is. You tell a patient, I know what to do, and then you go back and you say to your friend, I don't know what to do. Let's just try something.
Did you have accomplices? I don't want the word accomplice.
Accomplice? That's not...
I know, that's the wrong
a negative
word.
connotation.
That's the wrong word.
You sound like the DA.
I know.
You sound just like the DA sounded.
Assistants. How about that? Assistants. Cohorts.
Yeah. I had a guy, his name was Tony.
Yeah.
And Tony was a sort of a man about town. He was a kind of a gadfly. And he was up for anything. And yeah, he helped me out immeasurably in those days.
He was a gadfly? He was up for anything? Where did you find this Tony fellow?
Where did I originally find Tony? You know what? I think I met him at the movie theater.
What movie were you seeing?
I was just going to see there was a film. That's not important.
Wait. Where was this theater at?
It was an independently run operation.
Can you remember any other movies you saw at that theater?
I did go there quite frequently, in fact, but none of the titles. I mean, titles of movies. But
who can remember titles? Of movies?
Did you ever go? Did you ever take your mom to this theater with you? Did you ever go?
I don't believe so. No.
Are your parents still around?
No. Very tragically, they passed in that very house I was discussing. But anyhow, yeah, Tony was a guy, and
so you met him at a theater.
Yeah, we had similar interests.
Out in the lobby, or certainly not during the movie, because...
What about the bathroom? I mean, you meet people in the bathroom all the time.
You're coming out, going in.
These sorts of details, I don't think are all that illustrative and helpful. But regardless, we hit it off, Tony and I, and immediately, he says, I've got some people at my house who are not necessarily supposed to be there, and so did I, patients.
Your parents?
Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, I had some patients at my house, and he wasn't calling them patients at the time. But anyway, we pooled our resources. And
what were his resources? Because it sounds like you had the location and the knowledge and the know-how. What did he bring to the table?
He was very strong. And sort of...
intimidating?
What's the word? Sort of unencumbered by a sense of right and wrong. And he had a look in his eyes that he just looked at you and you said, okay, whatever you say.
Whatever you say, I'll go along with you to the second location.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but that kind of a guy, like a force of personality, just a real terrific guy.
Just one of those guys you want to work with.
That's how I felt, yeah. So he was very helpful.
I have a question. So sometimes it's trial and error. Inevitably, some of these experiments are going to go wrong, right? I mean...
I never looked at it that way.
Okay, but
because in the quest for knowledge... It's almost like it's going right.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
But what about body disposal? I mean, what would you do with the bodies?
Yeah, normally in a practice such as this, you would one would send someone to the morgue or alert the authorities of some sort.
Well, look, now you're talking about, I guess, the kind of thing that they do teach you in medical school or something like that. What if the patient is to die? What do you do? And who do you call and all that stuff?
And you're just sort of flying blind the first time this happens?
Exactly. These were the sorts of things we did. As I say, I lived near some woods, and so you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you just sort of bury them out there and whatever.
Tony, once again, very strong.
He was good at digging holes and getting through the roots and things like that
Yeah.
of the tree. It's harder than you think to dig because you really got to dig down there if you're going to put a person in there.
Yeah, it seems like you would find a clearing of some sort. You wouldn't go near the trees, but...
Yeah, but you didn't want these to be found.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? You know? Yeah, but you know what? Actually, I'll tell you something. This was largely what made me say, forget it. I got to go get a medical license and find out what really to do with these bodies because it isn't a lot of fun to be digging these graves, and then sometimes you'd be digging one and you realize, oh crap, we already put one here. You know what I'm saying?
You got to start all over.
Lots of problems. Yeah, so that was part of it.
How does one get a medical license with this kind of background? I mean, it sounds like you've been to court. It sounds like...
Yeah. Well, I couldn't get a medical license, but it was easy enough to get a nurse's certification. They need a real nurse shortage.
So how did you get it yourself, or was this someone else's you're using, or how,
did you change your name ever? Have you had the same name?
Jeez,
you guys,
aliases? These are some hard questions. Yeah, I've gone by several different names over the years. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and how the normal person doesn't do that unless they change their name for their profession. I mean, to be an actor.
Well, that's what I did. I changed my of course. Look, I'm sorry, but no, you don't have to be an actor to change the name of your profession. I mean, I'm sorry. But, and you know how it is with nurses, if someone is done being a nurse, they would just pass their credentials on to someone else who wanted them or something
I don't
like that.
think that is necessarily true.
No, that's how it is with nursing.
So you're saying you were grandfathered into the profession somehow?
I suppose that's what you'd say. Yeah, I mean, there was a nurse who was leaving the profession, and, what did she get? She sold me her scrubs, because those are very useful.
But do you have to use her name when you're a nurse?
Luckily, her name was Chris.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Your name is Andy.
So I used that for a period of time. Yeah. But then, you know what? It got complicated because she then passed away, and then it was, hey, you're dead.
But I did think it was a little weird when your publicist came in and gave me your book and your information, but it's Andy with an I at the end.
Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little odd because that's normally a female name. But now it all sort of makes a little more sense to me.
Well, the truth is, I mean, it's very difficult to find a male nurse who's retiring who you can get their credentials. That's the fact of the matter.
Why, and why male? It's easier to get a female somehow?
Yeah, because there's just more women in nursing. That's all. It's just a number.
Do you encounter a lot of prejudice as a male nurse?
Thank you for asking that question. I certainly do. Yes, I really do. A lot of times a patient will say, hey, doctor. And I say, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm a nurse. And they go, well, you're a man. And I just say, hey, drop your bigotry. And sometimes you got to get physical.
In what way do you...
Well, if somebody's being a bigot like that, you got to get physical. And,
Do you got to bring Tony in?
You know what? Tony helps me out a lot on the floor with the senior citizens. And
Tony works with you?
Well, not in any official capacity, but from time to time, if it's like somebody's got to go out the window, you know what I mean?
He sounds like a real people person, though, so he probably just enjoys being around the patients,
He
right?
does. He's fun. He's a lot of fun to have around. And he comes to the floor, and everybody just goes, oh, no, it's Tony. What's going to happen this time?
Does he get paid at all for his work? Or?
Well, we pay him in things that he likes.
Huh.
Yeah.
What is he like?
Oh, he's very low energy. He has very low energy, so it's...
Coke?
There you go, yeah, or things like that. Or it's just something to help him with his energy because he has I think he's hypothyroidic.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's good for him to have
I would imagine another great thing about being in the hospital is that you've got closets and closets full of pills. I mean, just sitting around, and none of the patients really need those, right? So, I mean, they're just mainly there for you.
Whether they need it or not, I mean, that's something that you do. You say, well, what if I take her, her pills or his pills or something like that and go out, whatever, just sell them or something or take them and whatever, and let's see how he does without them.
Yeah.
And if he's doing okay, well, then it's fine. But I mean, look, if they're not doing so great, you bring the pills back maybe, or cut them in half, something like that. Yeah.
Do you have some sort of prescription pad or something where you're able to prescribe drugs to people?
Well, I don't know if I should be talking about this on the radio.
Well, why not?
This isn't the radio, though. It's a podcast.
Sorry, we're no longer on the radio.
Oh,
just canceled this week on Indy 103.1.
Are you kidding me?
No, so I'm sorry if you came in here expecting it to be a big radio show. But,
what is it now?
It's a podcast. It's actually much more popular than being on the radio.
So if I was to say admit to any crimes,
no,
which to the best of my knowledge I've not done yet.
No, there's a certain thing called podcast guest privilege immunity. Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. Yeah, because it's on the internet, right? So it's international. And
anything that you say on the internet can't be used in a court of law against you.
Oh, I like that. That's a very good rule.
So feel free to speak your mind.
Yeah, sure.
But they will come after you for tax evasion, so make sure that...
Yeah, don't mention any kind of taxes thing. Do you have tax problems at all?
Well, that's a bit of a problem because some of the things that I'm into are a cash business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, in particular.
And I mean, with all the names you've got going, how can you keep track of all
That's true.
Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily file taxes as any of these other people that I've been.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so are you able to prescribe drugs at all?
Well, am I able to, or do I? What's your question?
Gosh, choose wisely. I don't know.
I do.
You do?
Yeah. Well, what happens is that these doctors can be careless with their prescription pads.
Really? I've always heard that they have those under lock and key. They're the most valuable tool in a doctor's arsenal.
Yeah, well, sure, but you can get them drunk, or you can give them some money, you know what I'm saying? You can get your hands on those prescription pads, and then you can run them off, you know what I'm saying? You can go, you can go to Kinko's or whatever, and you can make copies, and then all of a sudden you're a doctor with a prescription pad. So that's fun. And so everybody can get pills.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is.
Do you take anything yourself?
Oh, no. I don't want to get involved in any drug. All I take Valium. That's all I take. I sometimes take Percocet and things like that. And I just things like that. But I don't want to get involved in any drugs.
When you say things like that, it seems like you're taking more than
right. Well, just,
Percocet.
Various different kinds of painkillers. But I don't want to get involved in any of that. I take,
Painkillers that numb the emotional pain as well? Or
Oh, sure. Yeah. Some of those and also just physical pain. And thinking, the funny thing is that sometimes one pill will do both, and you just zonked out for a weekend. But I don't really do drugs of any kind.
How do you feel about the show Nurse Jackie? Do you like that show?
You know what? A lot of the nurses talk about that. I'm not interested in it because, as far as I'm concerned, what I hear is that it's a drama, and I say, nursing is funny. It should be a comedy.
Yeah.
Well, it's considered to be a comedy at the Emmys. I mean,
it is.
Gillian, you would know that more than any of us.
I do know that.
Probably taking away some of those nominations.
Yeah, Nurse Jackie is a comedy.
It's really funny, though. You have to give it that, though. It's a great funny show.
Is it? Should I give it a try?
It's maybe the funniest show on TV, which is, the Emmys have recognized it as such.
I had no idea. I was told it was a very heavy drama.
Oh, I think that is casting it in a totally different light.
Well, then I'll check it out because I love to laugh.
Yeah, I think it's right up your alley. It really is.
Then. Well, terrific. Well, then we'll watch it.
How did your parents die? Can we get back to that?
Oh, it wasn't really that interesting. It was just a sort of a thing where they were constantly, when you get old and you complain about being cold a lot of the time, and we were just trying, Tony and I, we were trying a heat cure, was all, because they were complaining incessantly, really, about being cold.
You're getting emotional. You just choked up for a second.
Well, it was very sad watching them burn. And
watching them burn. So you tried a heat cure that burned them.
What we did is we started a small fire at their feet. Yeah, because in particular it was the feet. I mean, you couldn't get them. What do you call them?
The extremities.
No, what's the word?
Circulation?
No, I'm looking for a specific thing you put on your feet. Slippers. You couldn't get them slippers that were warm enough for their feet to get them to stop complaining about, it's cold. And this house, because it had been abandoned, did not have heat,
You'd moved your parents into an abandoned house?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Some sort of shanty that you had set up in the woods there?
It was a house that I found to start my practice, okay, and they were living in a condo, and they were having all these health problems, and I said, why don't you come to the hospital, as we sometimes called it, Tony and I, and I'll see what I can do for you. And while they were there, it was nothing but, I'm so cold, don't you turn on the radiator? Well, I was like, we don't have
Why isn't there drywall? Why is there just tarps?
Exactly. What's with the leaks and all this stuff, and how come, can you get the raccoons out and all that? So, we just did a thing where we said, well, let's warm up your feet with fire. I mean, what's hotter than that? Mm-hmm.
Did you use those kind of measured tones when you were saying this? Or?
Oh, no, they were under our skin.
It was a little more emotionally
they were really under our skin.
You were irritated.
Yeah, something? Yes, to tell you the truth, because it had been incessant complaining. How come you're not feeding us? And, why is it so cold? So, yes, there was a little bit, I'll tell you, it was a heated tone of, okay, how about this if your feet are so cold,
I listening to you talk, I really feel like you're one of those people who was born in the wrong time. I really feel like the Middle Ages would have been
you could have been a great dentist.
Wow, what a romantic time that was in the Middle Ages.
The leeches.
And the Black Plague. I mean, you could have, I really feel like you could have done a lot of good back then. And
just corpses everywhere, too. You know what I mean? Like,
I wouldn't have liked that. No.
Oh, you don't like corpses everywhere?
Once something becomes a corpse,
You're not interested
It's just a
anymore?
problem. At that point,
Really,
it's just
once-
a
You just want to
problem.
bury it as quickly as possible.
get it out
So
of
once
there,
the
yeah.
light goes off in the eyes, that's when you lose interest?
Yeah, pretty much. You're not going to get any more laughs out of it. Although,
Do you enjoy
But Ed Gein, I think he got a lot of laughs out of some
That's
dead
true,
bodies.
Who did what?
He
Who
had a
did?
lighthearted spirit, though.
Yeah, he did.
And a whimsical air.
Ed, you don't know about Ed Gein? I would have thought you would have been very
I don't know
familiar
anything
with
about Ed Gein.
Ed Gein. You
He's
know,
a fellow who just had some of the... You share some of the same interests.
he made housewares out of people's dermis after they died. Lampshades,
Well,
curtains, stuff
yeah.
like that.
I wish we had met because, we
kind of
had
a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had quite an accumulation of bodies, and it might have been nice to get some money out
Waste
of them.
not, want not. I
Right.
think that was Ed Gein's motto.
Yeah.
Can I ask, how many times have you seen that light go off in someone's eyes where you know that they've passed on from this plane into whatever else is out there? I don't...
Heaven,
I mean,
heaven.
Going
heaven
to
according
heaven,
to you,
yes.
yeah.
I'll meet all these people again in heaven. And
You
I'll,
think it's going to be a good meeting?
oh, certainly. I mean, they're up there with George Washington playing the harp and all that, and they're having a great time.
I didn't know George Washington played the harp.
In heaven, he does. In heaven, everyone plays the harp.
Yeah.
He's had a couple hundred years to learn it, but anyhow, yeah, I think it's going to be a great
Do you
reunion.
see that as heaven, as you get harp instruction the minute you get there?
Well, that's what I would want when I arrive through the pearly gates. I'd say, okay, now I finally have time to learn to play the harp.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
It takes a long time.
I would think.
So many strings.
Yeah.
Right.
More so than almost any other instrument I can think
Yeah.
of.
More strings than any other instrument. Let's think.
Perhaps the piano. Piano
Piano
is
is a lot.
88.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many the harp has.
Many.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
many times then, more so than the strings on a piano, have you seen the light go out in
What do
someone's
you got?
eyes?
How many strings on a
That'd be
piano?
88.
That's funny because there's 88 keys on a piano. Did you know that?
That, I think, is
It
pure
may course-
coincidence.
yeah, yeah,
Pure
that's-
coincidence. Has
Interesting.
They
nothing-
just lucked into that,
Yeah.
I believe.
That's interesting.
The two have nothing to do with each other.
I have seen, I would estimate 500 people die.
Well, people, and not just animals. People.
Oh, you want to throw in animals?
Yeah, please do. Let's get a really comprehensive list here.
Now we're well into the, we've got to be getting up to 10,000.
Wow.
9,500 more animals than human beings.
I would say so, yeah. It
Are
took a
you
while before I
allowed
got into
to
people.
own pets legally in the state of New Jersey?
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Has there ever been an investigation? Have you ever had to deal with an investigation of any kind?
Lots of investigations. Are you kidding me?
How do you
Absolutely.
sidestep these?
I go underground. That's all, and you disappear for a while, and you emerge under
it
a
seems
new
like a
name.
strange choice for you now to be writing a book, which is basically, I've been flipping through it as
Yeah.
you've been talking. It
Isn't
reads,
it funny?
It reads, to be honest, more like
Yes.
a confession that you signed in a police station
What are you talking about?
under duress.
Oh, stop it! It's full of funny stories. Don't give
It's
people the
not
wrong
even
idea.
organized into chapters.
Yeah.
And it is certainly not published by Penguin Press. It's just it's in a file that a Manila folder that you gave me.
It
and
says
it's,
made by Apple.
Yeah, and it's just a series of rants too, and almost words that don't have anything to do with each other, and little tiny writing too. I have to say.
Well, yeah. What's the problem? How is any of that bad? I mean, it's a funny
Scott,
book.
where was the question in that?
Yes,
that
thank
was just
you.
a
Where was
series
the
of
question?
facts.
I'm saying you may have misrepresented
something, you're like
yourself
Piers
here.
Morgan here. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
wasn't
gonna
that
walk
horrible
out.
what he did to Christina?
That's
Terrible.
terrible. That's terrible. He's
That
in
was
bad mood.
terrible.
Devoted public
I do
servant
not want
like
to
her.
be an interviewer like him, I tell
No.
you, to make someone walk. So I don't mean to make you walk off. I just mean to say that it's kind of an odd choice for you to be purporting that you have a book and come in here and give me this.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't know what the definition of a book is. I mean, unbelievable, this guy over here.
Or a publisher.
Wait, this is a Penguin classic, in my opinion.
Did you meet a penguin who told you he was going to publish your
There's
book?
a story in there about a penguin.
How many
Read on.
penguins have you killed?
Well, it's very interesting because there's virtually nothing to stop you from going into the penguin exhibit at the Central Park Zoo in New York. If you've ever been there, there's virtually nothing to stop you.
How many of the 9,500 animals that you've extinguished have been penguins?
Oh, not that many. Just about 20.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
And when did your psychosis escalate into human?
Excuse me?
What I
Very
mean,
much?
what I
What
mean
are you
to say is,
talking about?
when did you move into human care?
Hey, Piers Morgan over here. What's with this line
Unbelievable.
of
You're being
questioning?
very rude.
So sorry. What I mean
I
to
don't
say
care
is,
for this at all.
when did the idea pop in your head that you should move on to human beings? And
Well, I got my hands on an ape. And I was doing several different experiments on this ape and all this, and the ape had...
Tony must have been a big help with this, because apes are powerful.
Yes, Tony was a very big help with the ape.
Have you seen the apes that have ripped off the private parts of human beings?
What?
I mean, or maybe those are chimpanzees. I don't know. They just will rip off your...
They go right for the privates, don't they?
The eyes, the jaw, and the privates, I hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the fingers. They really want your fingers, too.
Which is, by the way, you should keep that in mind for if there's any trouble walking out of here. The eyes, the face, and the privates.
Got it.
So the point is that this ape had been trained in sign language and could beg for its life. And I thought, that's interesting. Let's...
Communicating with someone on that
level. You're fascinated by language.
Yes, and so I says, we got to get into people. Let's call me a doctor. Let's find a house, and take it to the next level. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the funniest thing that anyone has said to you as they slip off this mortal coil?
Oh, things like, tell my daughter I love her.
Really? You get a lot of that? Final
that's just
words?
so funny. It's like, how am I going to find your daughter? It's hysterical.
But sometimes you do find their daughter, don't you?
Yeah, but why should I tell her what I'm supposed to? You can have fun telling her anything you want.
Once you find the daughter, that's usually not on the menu, passing on those last words.
Well, that's right, yeah.
Did you ever have an interest in pediatrics, or was it always
You maybe don't want to give them any ideas here.
Sorry.
Pediatrics, huh?
That's the study of children. You wouldn't be interested in it.
I have to be perfectly honest with you. Tony's been wanting to get into that for a long time. And
What's stopping him?
I'm the firewall there. I just say, Tony, come on. It's not fair.
That's not us.
Yeah, that's not us.
They don't stand a fighting chance.
Yeah, plus people are looking for them. That's the main problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean... So these people that come into the hospital, they have no family, right?
That's right.
Okay. And then
By and large.
Do you call the morgue for them, or are you still trucking out to the woods?
Do I what? What's the question?
Yeah, the morgue. Do
you get the morgue involved with the
That's a very interesting question. It totally depends on how they die. Do you know that? I mean, this is something a lot of people don't know about the medical profession. Depending on how you die in the hands of the medical profession determines whether or not the morgue is called or whether you're disposed of in some other way. And a lot of people don't realize that.
You know
what?
Very true.
Like a real rule.
Industry standard.
Yeah.
That's how it is in the medical profession.
Well, wait, stop. Because don't you remember in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, there was a big to-do about the fact that hospitals were taking people down to Skid Row and dumping them out of ambulances onto the streets because no one had come for them. And I do remember there was a story about a paraplegic crawling through the gutter because he'd been dumped out of the back of an ambulance and abandoned on Skid Row.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
A paraplegic?
Yeah.
I remember that story. That was a few years back.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
The guy go,
you don't get into stuff like that.
That's hysterical.
Sometimes you just don't get sick of somebody. They're not dying. They've been there for the while. You just put them in an ambulance and
just let them fend for themselves
drive
or something
them
like
somewhere.
that. But I would never think to do it in a city. It's more interesting to me to do it in a wilderness setting.
Yeah.
That's what arouses and sort of piques your interest.
I think so because
what is it about that? Do you think what is it about the outdoors?
Lack of witnesses.
Or is it just something... What happened out there in the wilderness when you were a kid?
Oh, I don't know.
It sort of arouses you to...
Oh, it's not like that.
It's not sexual?
No. Oh, my God.
No.
What a pervert.
When you're planning these crimes...
What a pervert.
When you're planning these crimes and sort of like going through the ritualistic...
I'm
sorry. These are not crimes. What are you talking about?
Okay, when these amusing situations happen...
Yes.
And they're about to happen, and I'm sure you think about these for several days prior.
Depending, yes.
Go over them in your head.
Sure, depending,
planning the steps.
Right,
What is it about the woods that sort of is so intriguing about it to you?
I like the feeling that if a person was to, they're on their own wits. In a city, somebody can help you. Probably they're not gonna, but they could.
New York City, certainly, they'll let you die. They'll watch you die.
Oh, yeah. That's New York, this greatest city on earth.
Yeah.
I've never been there.
You haven't been in New York?
No.
Cream sodas. That's all they
creams,
serve.
yeah.
Egg creams.
Well, okay. Anyway, though, you put them in the wilderness, and it's up to you and your wits. Can you survive? That's very interesting to me.
You're like Bear Grylls, right? That Man versus Wild. You into stuff like that?
Yeah, what kind of clothing are you wearing when you're doing all this?
Well, when I'm on staff at the hospital, I'm dressed like a nurse.
But when you're out there in the woods, what's going on?
Well, I have a loincloth. And a lot of the rest of, in terms of what I'm wearing, is body paint.
Do you still have fingerprints? Have you taken care?
Oh, great question. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I do not have fingerprints.
How'd you get rid of those?
Oh, well, you know what you have to... the weird thing is, one of the cruel ironies of the human body is that they will come back. You have to continually file them off.
Yeah.
How often do you have to do this?
Well, it's, every once in a while I just look at my fingers and I go, okay, it's time, it's about once a month I got to get back in there.
Do you enjoy, though, the process of doing that, filing them down?
You know what? These days, Tony does it for me.
Really?
Yeah, I say, Tony!
Hey, what a great
Do you live
relationship.
together? Do you guys live together? Have
You guys
moved
roommates?
in?
Tony, no, he comes and goes. You can't really predict
Doesn't have a
Tony's
set
movements.
schedule?
No, you can't predict
That's part of
Tony's
his charm,
movements.
though.
Yeah, that's right. Anything can happen with Tony. Yeah, you never know what's going to go on with him or what he's up to or who he's got with him,
You know what? I shot a movie once in rural Wisconsin, and right when we arrived, it was called Wisconsin Rapids, and everybody said, have you guys heard about the Rapids Rapist? Have you heard about the Rapids Rapist?
Oh, boy, this is going to be good.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm just thinking about this story right now, just talking to you. And this guy, he would drug guys at this local bar, and then when they passed out, he would kidnap. That's
He would drag them out
very
of the bar?
judgy word. Well, sometimes they would
He would assist them.
pass out in their car, or take them back to his house.
He would anesthetize them.
Yeah. He had them tied up in his garage, blindfolded, naked, and he had a shotgun. It was booby trapped to go off if they tried to get away.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so he told them that he was going to kill them. He told them he was going to shoot them. And the one kid said, well, before you kill me, will you at least give me a cigarette? And so, being a compassionate guy, he says, sure. And somehow these darn kids managed to get down and run to the neighbor's house. And
using only a cigarette?
Yeah. No, before he came back with the cigarette.
Okay. I get it. I thought that was some MacGruber shit.
Yeah.
That was very accommodating of him to go out for cigarettes.
I don't know for whatever
Not a bad guy.
you're talking about Tony. For some reason, I'm thinking of the story. I don't know why. But
Yeah. Tony ever been out there in
Wisconsin
where was this?
Rapids?
Wisconsin?
Out to Wisconsin? Yes, he did go out to Wisconsin for a period of time, but only to rape boys.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't sound like your story.
Sound like the same guy.
No, it doesn't sound like your story.
You know what they called him too? The Rapids Rapist. But the part of town where he kidnapped them from was a triangular block that had a lot of bars, so they called it the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh.
Well, now we're having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun.
whimsical.
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle. You don't know when you're going to get shot.
Well, gosh, Andy, this is you're a fascinating guy, I have to say.
Well, I didn't know we were going to get into all of this. It's fascinating. I didn't know we were going to have such a wide-ranging discussion.
Well, no, I mean, that's what we do on the show. We try to get deep into the mind and background of people.
The
and
backstory.
And really, and don't worry about the security team that's assembled outside.
There are a lot of guys out there.
I
What's
noticed
going on?
I'm glad that you paid no mind when I pressed that button underneath the table. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
What's going on here?
No, nothing. I mean,
what's the story with buttons and guys?
just some buttons, some guys. The usual reception one gets when they drop off this kind of manifesto. It is a manifesto, right?
Well, it does talk about what's coming. For sure, there's a lot in there
I
about
haven't gotten to that chapter yet.
About what's coming. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Wow. So you're delighted by what's coming.
Yeah, because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kill myself.
Oh, really?
And then I'm going to come back as an all-seeing dragon. And I'm going to sweep across the land and turn all of Earth into an uncontrollable conflagration, and I will see you all in heaven.
Okay, well, we'll see you there, and hopefully by the time I get there, you'll have learned how to play the harp.
Count on it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you.